Welcome everyone to another episode of the Wood from the Trees podcast. I really hope you enjoy this episode. And if you like what we're doing and you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/the Wood from the Trees. Hope you enjoy the episode. Love you loads. Is it on? Oh, there we are. See the little red light. See, it's gone red there.
Oh, okay, very good. Right.
And this hard drive has 4 hours, 42 minutes. Do you think we have enough time?
Well, unless you can compact it into
Condense it. Everyone that listens to this now is going to think if it's an hour and a half that we had to delete some amount of stuff.
Yeah, they probably will.
Leo Brophy.
Yeah, that's me.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Tell me, Leo.
Yeah.
Where were you born and reared?
I
know the answer to a lot of these questions, but I'm going to ask.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was born in Holland Street in Dublin on the 1st of January 1972, actually New Year's Day.
I didn't know that.
There's one for you.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Is that where you were from?
No. They just took me to Dublin to get me out. Apparently it was a fat baby, so it took a bit of work to get me out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The head was...
And the rest of me, yeah.
Just too big. Big family?
7 kids, yeah. Seven kids, yeah.
Where did you fall?
First.
You're the oldest?
I'm the oldest, yeah.
A lot of responsibility.
Yeah, a lot of bullying anyway.
And who was getting bullied?
Not me.
And where did you live?
Down in Forestry or Kilbrickin. Some people that know this Kilbrickin there, not far from Collier's pub, you know it. So we would have grown up with like Sean Collier and Long Pat, as we know, and stuff like that. Was kids we would have all knocked around together at that time, yeah.
Oh, and how long did you stay there? Did you stay there your whole...
all my life, yeah.
Went to school in Kilbrickin?
No, there was no school in Kilbrickin.
Where did you go to school? Mountreat?
Mountreat, yeah, the primary school, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And I vaguely remember being in the old school. I think for a very, very short...
That was knocked down, wasn't it?
No, it's still there. I think they have like a FOSS scheme there or something. It's opposite the traffic lights, say, where you go up to the primary school now, almost opposite there.
Oh.
Just a bit past here, actually, yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and I can vaguely remember being in there. And then, obviously, the new primary school, which was new to us back then.
Did you like school?
Primary school I liked. Secondary school, then I went to Ballyfin.
Bored?
No. Yeah, cycled to a whole heap of us used to cycle back then.
Who were you in class with from around?
So, let me see. Be Gordon Fitz would have been in it. Kevin Grattan.
Gordon Fitz went to Ballyfin?
For a short period of time.
I did not call that.
So, Brendan Tynan, he would have been a year ahead of me. Sean Collier. Patrick Murphy. All those guys from around the area, I suppose. Stephen Cuddy. Stephen would have been in my class. So all those lads. Declan Heffernan. A lot of those guys all went to Ballyfin.
Did you hang with them?
Yeah, I suppose you did to a point, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, things were different back then where we didn't hang around in the evenings so much because you just went to school and went home and that was it. And so unless it was sports or a little bit of weekend
Did you
stuff.
play sports?
A bit at hurling. After that, I was more interested in motorsport. So for me, weekends, I would kind of save up and go to a rally for the weekend or just go once a month. A couple of my cousins all went to rallies and we all knocked around or involved in one way or another. So I would have had more of an interest in that than, say, hurling or football or stuff like that.
And were you into cars?
Yeah. If it had a mechanical part in it, I'd be stuck in it, whether it was aeronautics or cars or anything like that. I'd have an interest in that, yeah.
And when you were in school, is that what you wanted to do, mechanics and that?
Yeah, when I was in secondary school, I think the problem with Ballyfin was a little bit of an academic school, which made it a bit difficult for me, I suppose. Now, I did get on well with Brother Morris, one of the monks, he'd be well known. He was a scientist, a very, very good one, and he had an interest in stuff. And when I was around him, it was really good. So at that time, I suppose I had an interest in suspension design, funnily enough. I was all the time drawing, designing suspensions when I should have been studying probably and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Were the monks going around in robes?
In Ballyfin, they just wore black normally, not so much robes. They were Patrician brothers. They wouldn't have been like, say, Mount St. Joseph and Rossgrave, where they would have worn the robes. Yeah, it would be different, yeah.
I often wonder, did they wear underwear underneath?
Yeah, I never asked them.
Or are they like commando? I'd have to ask.
I don't know. Yeah, the ones in Mount St. Joseph, I'm friendly with those guys over the years, and they've very interesting lifestyle. Yeah.
What do they do every day?
Their day in Rossgrave, Ballyfin would have been different, but Rossgrave, they get up at 4:15 every morning. That's their beginning of their day, and they do their prayers. It's very routine orientated. And then actually in the middle of the day, they actually go to bed for about, I think it's 2 hours or something like that. And then they go back again. So it's always like prayers and, go through whatever process. But they all had, like in Roscrea, there was guys milking cows, there was farmers, there was guys worked in the forestry, they had a sawmill. They were, when it was very, when there was a lot of them, they were quite busy. And it's very, very interesting people to talk to. They were very interested in science and stuff like that. Sometimes when people see religious organisations, they think, well, they're not very interested in science, but you could have amazing conversations with them when you were down there. So
they have a lot of time to dedicate their lives to certain interests.
Yeah. I remember there was one monk, I think it was Lawrence was his name, if I can remember this right, and he was from Donegal, and he used to paint in the bell tower in his spare time. And we were chatting to him one day, and I said, do you get to go home often, or do you see your family? And he says, I haven't been home in 40-something years. And he said, they're probably all dead. So, which is kind of, it's a different lifestyle, yeah. It's a different.
I wonder, do people, when they do stuff like that, do they not like their families?
No, I think it's just a devotion to a particular lifestyle and a way of living. It's a very good lifestyle. It's just quite interesting. I mean, for us, it probably would feel unusual because we have, people in relationships and stuff like that. And obviously they don't have that part in their lives. But when you get to know them and you get to kind of understand it, and like Roscrea, like, you could go on retreats. I presume you still can go on retreats there now, and so they would have catering and people cooking, but those guys would have never have availed of that. They actually looked after themselves. They looked after their own cooking, and it was very, very, they lived a particular style of life. You know what I mean? So it was quite interesting.
You may get used to me going off on tangents like
for
that.
For sure, like myself. Yeah, I do it as well. Yeah.
When you left school, what did you want to do as a job?
Anything to do with engineering attracted me initially, even though when I left school, I actually wound up working on a farm for a while. And then there was a competition, actually, a welding competition came up through the Mocker na Farma. And I had a go at that, and I did really, really well. And I thought, I actually quite like this. So then I went from there on to Athlone, and I became a qualified welder and fabricator. And after that, I kind of went to places like Butlers, and I worked in Tanco, actually, who used to make the front loaders down in Carlow. I travelled around a lot and worked in a lot of different places.
Did you get bored and just change?
I get bored easy, yeah. I need to be challenged, so I get bored very, very easily. So after that, I actually went on to become a pipe welder. And so, because that's really difficult. There's a very, 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 very high attrition rate in the pipe welding game when you get up to heavy wall, what they call heavy wall welding and stuff. So I went down to Waterford and I trained down there, and that was a good lifestyle.
Is that by hand, or did it have a template to do it?
Yeah.
Hand,
yeah. Very, very difficult. Psychologically, it's difficult, and control and stuff like that, and you have to be able to kind of deal with stress. And
why?
When you're driving the machine, there's times you're busy and you're focused on stuff, and then you can kind of relax and say when you're coming out with a load or something, you can kind of take the pressure off. If that in pipe welding, you can't do that. If your mind even wandered for a second, chances are you'll get a little bit of porosity, or you get a little bit of something. And in the pipe welding trade, especially if you go into what they call heavy wall, which is the heavy pipes, the gas, the difficult ones, the outside and side type welding, generally speaking, one mistake and you're looking for a job. That's
really?
It. You're
Someone
gone.
watching you?
Yeah, because it costs so much money. You could be welding two pieces of pipe together that's costing thousands. You could have a crew there that's trenching and laying that, and that's costing maybe hundreds of thousands per day. So if you make a mistake, everything has to stop. That piece has to be cut out, and so the cost of that is huge. That's why it used to pay. I said to pay us the big money, because you just cannot afford to make any mistakes.
Was that big money?
Yeah, I finished up. I think in '99 I was doing a job in Dublin Airport, I think, and at that time I think I was on £2,500 a week for a basic.
What?
Yeah, plus you got nearly another week's wages in accommodation money and food money and drink money, and there was all that kind of stuff back then.
What were you doing, mate?
I'm sure having fun as anyone does, spend it on cars and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right, so were you like balling back then?
Oh, I did well back then. Yeah, very well back then. Yeah. You could do. I worked with guys who that are retired in their 40s. If you were willing to go to places like Iraq or some of the more dangerous places where you got even 3 times that kind of money, and a lot of the oil companies you'd be working for, you could keep, once you kept the money out, I think it was over 11 months at that time, you were tax free, and they would invest the money for you, and it was just happy days.
Why did you leave?
Kids. I just thought, you have to be away for so long and stuff like that. So as the kids come up, you kind of start to feel a bit guilty about that. Even though now they tell me I should have went, but anyway.
How many kids have you?
I have 2 lads, 2 boys. One is 26 and one is 27.
Kids reared? House paid for?
No. They're they're never reared, I don't think. That doesn't work.
So you left that job? There was no job.
I kind of finished up at that, and I just thought, so then I looked for something in Ireland, and there'd be small bits of jobs here and there. It's very transient kind of work. You could be somewhere for a week, you could be there for 2 months. It varies, depends on the job. So then there used to be engineers that would be advertising for work and stuff, and by pure accident this contract came up for someone that was willing to work on heights or weld on heights, and I thought, oh yeah, sure, I have no problem with heights. And I found myself in a bell tower in County Tipperary, in one of the biggest bells in the country, building a frame to support the bell. And after that turned into, from me working for myself to actually starting up a business for a company. We worked as subcontractors for a company called Beltron, and they would do a lot of the church bells. And
a company fixing bells?
Yeah, tuning them, hanging them, restoring them, automating them and stuff like that. So we covered all the British Isles. So we did that for about 10 years, and then we got a bit more into automation and control engineering as well.
Of bells?
Bells and other stuff, other technical stuff then after that. But yeah, primarily the business was bells, yeah.
So what was the highest steeple you were on?
In Ireland, St. John's, I think, was 272 feet to the top.
How do you get up?
That was scaffold at that time, but you could go up the inside of the tower as well. That would be laddered, and you'd bring up scaffold and stuff like that. So we would take, it was an interesting job. We would take bells down, take them away. In some cases where you have more than one bell, the bells have to be tuned and matched. You know the way you'd have like a Westminster chime or something like that. So, like for example, actually St. John's, they only had one bell, and they did a big restoration job. I can't remember how many years ago now. They spent like 10 million on the place. And so they wanted to have Westminster. So we got bells in the UK. We took a digital recording of the main bell in Limerick, and then we brought the other bells to the Whitechapel Bell Foundry, which is the oldest bell foundry chapel in the world, which is now unfortunately is closed. And they would have tuned those bells to match that. Then we would have taken them down to here in Mountrat. Actually, we would have built a structure to hold them and hang them and automate them.
When you're tuning the bell, what is it, the ball and the hanging thing, or is it the...
No, so if you ever look carefully at a bell, down at the bottom of the bell, you'll actually see lines, and they're known as sound lines. So the strike point will be maybe that distance there between that, and you can adjust that. But they actually, like when they're tuning them, it's like they turn the bell upside down, and it's basically a big lathe, and it comes down and it takes out material in different places to adjust for the tone.
So how do they know who says I don't like that tone?
Originally, I suppose the later part for us when we were doing it was done digitally, but before that it was just one guy who was the guy. He was the expert who would actually do it by ear, and he would be constantly checking and stuff like that.
That's not right. That's not right. Just the sound just isn't.
Yeah, but it was really cool. But the bell foundry was amazing. There was no concrete floor in most of it, so when they cast the bells, they actually dug out of the ground and they built a mold in the ground, and then they would fill the clay back in around. And the reason they did that, for 2 reasons: so it would cool slowly, and the other reason is bell metal can explode. So at least if it explodes in the ground, it's contained rather than wiping out a lot of people in the workshop. Yeah, so.
Why does it explode?
You see, it's a bell metal. It contains 76% copper, and the rest is tin. So it's that mixture, and it doesn't always agree with each other when they're mixed together. So there can be an issue. And it's like cast iron. You know, cast iron, if you go high or low temperature, it
shatters.
Shatters. Yeah, same for bells. Yeah.
I didn't know. I did not know. So why did you leave that?
The recession basically got us. We were doing a lot of small private structural jobs as well, and when the recession came, everything just went dead, and we had to let everyone go, unfortunately. And then we said we'd look and see what we do next, and monkey see, monkey do. So timber was busy. I suppose the only thing that was busy in the recession.
Before you get into timber,
yeah,
what do you call a secret agent bell?
I have no idea.
Bong.
All right. Okay.
Bing bong.
All right. That's not that funny.
So that's when you thought, fuck it, I go to timber.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Never dipped your toe in it before since that.
Well, we grew up around hurls and stuff like that because my grandfather made hurls in Woodbrook and my uncle and my dad. And so from the time I was a young fella, I was able to make hurls. So it was kind of timber wasn't anything alien to me, if you will. So we were always messing around in one way or another with that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was just the only thing. It was the only thing that was left busy in Ireland without having to go travelling again. I thought, here, sure, why not? And I suppose up until that point as well, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, you're working 7 days a week when you work for yourself, and it really was. We did very well at the engineering, but it was just, everyone got to go home for Friday, but you were there Saturday night, going through drawings or organising who was going where and who's doing what and all that kind of stuff, so so at that point we said, okay, what are we going to do next? And we just looked at lifestyles a bit more, and that just appealed to me. I always liked timber, I like being in the wood and stuff like that, so that's kind of how we wound up back there.
So who did you train with, or did you just grab a saw at that time and just go into the wood?
Yeah, sure. Certainly before, that's how we all wound up with cuts and scars. I suppose that's how we started. You learnt yourself or picked it up off the old fellas, and sure, really it wasn't, I suppose, until I did training courses you realise everything you were told was basically wrong anyway. We just got into the wood, and I started taking on bits of sales that, yourself, the small sales that's too small for you guys, it wouldn't be economical, and we just ran chainsaws and bought I think my first forwarder.
Keep this close to your...
Sorry, my first forwarder was what was the one for log set? It's going on my head.
Tiva.
No, they call them the aisle car. Norcar.
Norcar. That would have been... He knew.
Yeah. So... we started off with that, and we just worked away, and we got bits of sales here and got in with a couple of foresters and kind of evolved from that.
Was there just you?
Initially just me, and then there was, I think...
Was that a big change from like working welding and up doing...
Yeah, massive, yeah, massive.
But did you like it?
I love it. I like the loneliness of it. I liked, initially when I started, I was on my own, so the fact that you were in and you didn't see anybody for all the week, that was kind of refreshing for me. It was kind of nice. And then we started working, some of the local lads started working, lads that have been on building sites that have always been around timber as well. We kind of clubbed together, and I think there was 5 or 6 of us at one stage, just tipping in, getting bits of sales here and there, and sort of evolved from there.
Around home?
Local anywhere, yeah.
And you were living around home still? You'd always lived around this
area? Yeah. And and then after that, just did a few training courses and get qualified properly and stuff like that. And
keep this closer to you.
Sorry. And then someone in Quilcher approached us then to start doing edge trees, and then I suppose we would have crossed paths after that a bit, then doing oversized timber and stuff that you can't do with the harvester and stuff. And so yeah, I've enjoyed that. It's been brilliant. Yeah.
Well, how do you go from sure, I'll learn how to do this and start taking a few sales to representing Ireland with chainsaws and axes and what did they call the big long ones? Crosscuts.
Yeah, sport for the mentally unwell, we do say.
So are you just, when you get into something, you need to know everything about it?
Yeah, I have to go to the nth degree. I have to I like to understand how everything works if I'm involved with it, and I like to push it to the limit to try and to be the best that I can.
Have you OCD?
I don't think so. Maybe I do. I don't know. I just like understanding things. I like delving into things like that. And then, like say, I like to go. If I'm going to go at it, I'll go 100%. But then, if I'm not interested, I'm the wrong person to talk to about anything. If I'm not interested, I'm just don't try and entertain me at all, because it just won't work. So yeah, the Timbersports, I suppose we've all seen it on TV for years, and I found it interesting, and took a couple of years to get in with the club. And
was there a club in Ireland?
Yeah, it still is. Yeah. At that time, it was the Irish Axemen, and then that evolved into Timber Team Ireland, to be more encompassing of the ladies, because that's become very popular with the ladies.
Girls out as well?
Huge in the last couple of years. There's a massive amount of women. Yeah. even the axe throwing is a thing. Now we don't do much of it in our club.
Jesus, don't teach women to throw axes, whatever
Well,
the fuck you do.
they
That's all we need.
yeah, they really like it, and the world champion at the minute is actually an Irish lady in Wicklow.
Stop.
Yeah, and they only got into this in the last couple of years, and they've obliterated famous teams and really.
So how many different categories is there?
So there's actually lots of different disciplines with timber actually. So with the Timbersports, it's actually that competition has been running since the 1850s. Believe it or not, is known. People would know it as the oldest original extreme sport. So that would be, say, the chopping. So the underhand, when you stand up on a 13-inch diameter block and you chop kind of in between your legs, you turn around and chop the other side of it. Then you'd have a standing block, which is at about chest height, which is almost like you're felling a tree. That's done with an axe. The other one then is called a springboard. So we have a 9-foot pole. This is all on a stage like the Tree Arena or whatever. You have a 9-foot pole. You chop into the side of that and you put in a board and you stand up on that. Yeah, that's called a springboard. There's a little steel plate that hooks into it and you go on and you chop another one again, and then you have your piece of wood on the top that you have to chop. The difficult part with that one is you have to chop a third on your bad side and try and stay on the balance as well. After that then is the crosscut, and of course we're all familiar with crosscuts. I mean, people, that's how they fell trees years ago, except the crosscut we have now is very different than the one they would have used in the wood. So the one they would have used in forestry, like so poor old Mick Lortimerson and all that, would have been what's known as an M tooth, like the letter M, where the ones we would have would be what's called a peg and raker. So it's very, very long. You can set the saw up to be for your own strength. In other words, you could set it up that you wouldn't pull it through the timber with a jeep, basically, you know. And that's all would set you back about $4,000 or $4,500.
Like you were telling me, like the tools that they're using in the competitions are precision made. They're really expensive stuff.
Yeah, you can't buy an axe, say, in the local hardware. So an average axe will be either made by Tuatahi in New Zealand, or there's a few other manufacturers in Australia. Yeah, and you're talking about $1,000 for an axe head.
Just the head?
Yeah, and they're fragile. So a knot can actually take a big lump out of them and damage them and stuff like that. So it can be an expensive hobby.
Kind of like a Swedish Nordic samurai sword.
Yeah, basically, yeah. There's a couple of tempers in it, and there's different types of grinds depending on the type of timber we're chopping. There are different angles, so we adjust the angles to whether we're in fast timber and slow timber. So, like, a lot of guys could have 50, 60 axes in their collection.
So is there a team behind? Like, obviously, you need an athlete to do, like, the chopping lads. They're fucking beasts.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're training for that all the time.
Yeah.
So they're not the ones precision tuning their axes, are they? Or do they have a team behind them? Or are they just
the big countries would have huge budgets, frightening budgets that you'd be amazed.
Like what?
I think Australia's budget, like, it'd be €500,000 for the World Championship.
For how many people?
Well, there'd be a 5-man team, and for the relay team, and then there'd be an individual, and then there'd be the team that comes behind them. But like, the collection, you see those guys when they're wheeling in, and they're just boxes of axe boxes flying in, you know, where we don't have anything like that, and we're just trying to mind the axes backstage.
They should have given a few of that money to the breakdancing team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Who gives the money?
So for us, it's like any other sport. So with the Timbersports, there are different sports. So with the Timbersports, it's obviously run by Still. We know that Still Timbersports. So they run that. It's a business. They, you know, for advertisement and stuff like that. And then after that, any country can have your own sponsors and stuff like that. So for us in Ireland, we have Origo. So Origo is the main distributor for Still products in Ireland. So they sponsor us. They send us out to the competitions and accommodate us and do all of that. And after that, then we have our own little club, and we would try and do a couple of events to gather up a bit of money, and whether it's to buy axes or get.
But do you have competitions in Ireland to try and get into the best?
We don't have many people here, so what we have to do is actually we have to go to Wales to compete. To get competition time, we would travel a lot because it's not that popular in Ireland. Where in Europe, this is it's a culture shock when you go over to compete. You'd be amazed, like, the hotels are shut down. There's no public allowed in. It's we compete in places like the Tree Arena for all the world. Tree Arena wouldn't actually be big enough for us, so it'd be like the Porsche Arena in Stuttgart in Germany, places like that where you can have anywhere up to, I don't know, 15,000 people. I can't remember how many people would go. You'd have ESPN. You used to have Eurosport. You have the live streaming. So it's a big.
Would you be groupies?
Yeah. We have a few, a few of them.
Leo!
Not me. One of the other guys from Carlo has one from Germany. Kind of chases him around a bit. All right, just be entertaining. Yeah, she comes every year.
Oh, Jesus, fair play to her.
Yeah. We have a group of guys who come from England actually, and they all dress in shamrock suits to support us as well. Yeah. So it's cool. Yeah. It's hugely popular. Like I say, it'll be on every TV channel. It'll be in America now. It's so popular you can get your scholarship to go to college with Timbersports in say New Zealand. They started in primary school. Like we'd have hurling or football here. Australia, a lot of guys go to Australia, they'll go for the summer and they'll actually make a wage going out competing in events. It's kind of that popular over there, so very little here, but again in Europe it's quite popular as well, certain countries.
So what was your discipline?
Stock saw, which
That means?
it's a 90cc professional chainsaw, and the way the stock saw is done is a bit different than all the other disciplines in the sense that there will be 8 or 10 chainsaws and they're all put onto a dyno and they're all tested.
So you don't get to use your saw?
No. And we don't even get, for the choppers and the sawyers, they get a practice run before they go up on stage just to get a feel for the timber. Now, it doesn't matter what country you're in, actually all the timber comes from the one country, believe it or not, for to chop, so it's kind of even. And if I'm competing against you, we'll have 2 pieces of the same log to try and have it as
even
as possible, yeah. But for the chainsaw, we don't get a practice run. We don't get anything until we're on stage and we're competing. So it's psychologically it can be a little bit challenging.
You've
that
started
way.
and everything.
Yeah. So you get for us. So we'd have 3 slow motion cameras watching us on a relay, and we'd have 50 mil to cut, and we have to get down. We have to do a full cookie inside in that 50 mil. And the trick is to do that as quickly as possible without cutting out through the cookie or starting too early or whatever. So your average race will be anywhere between 6.5 and 8 seconds, and to be competitive now, we'd get 15 seconds to warm up your saw. You put your saw on the ground, and to be competitive now, you put your hands say over a line with the laser, and you have to be able to get your hands from the piece of timber down to the saw and have that saw back in the timber at full RPM in under a second. Otherwise, you're considered as being slow. So it's all about reaction times, and then when you go in, you have to be accurate. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
And did you like that?
Yeah, anything like that technical.
Let's get a look.
Yeah.
One up, one down.
Yeah, it depends on the discipline. Yeah, so that's one up and one down.
And is it that big a saw?
Yeah, it's 90 cc's. It's a big saw. It looks small with some of those guys, but it's a big lump of a saw. Yeah.
For anyone that's not watching, it's
a powerful saw.
That wouldn't be a saw that you'd be using every day with it.
Well, it actually is. It's a standard saw. So, say for us in Clearfell, if we're doing Clearfell, we normally run around 70cc saws because we have to climb up hills, so we try to have the saws.
They're built like tanks.
That's Robert Ebner, yeah. He's a nice guy, actually, German guy, yeah. Yeah, he's very good, yeah.
And that's what you did?
Yeah. So even there...
And how did you do?
Yeah, we do okay. I've had...
That's why I asked you.
I've had some really good times, and then I've had some awful times, and then I've had some DQs as well, where I've cut through the lines and stuff like that.
Who's your arch nemesis? Who do you hate?
Nobody really. Actually, it's a strange sport because unlike most sports, there is a bit of rivalry and stuff like that. But I think because the sport is such a technical sport, it tends to attract more engineers and guys like that than say lads like us that would be in the wood, because sometimes you're in the wood all week and have to turn up and start training Saturday. You go, Jesus. Where the engineer type guys are so excited to get in and do a bit. It's very, very technical sport. You can be as fit as you like and you can be as strong as you like, but you have a lot to learn. Like even when we're chopping, people think we're just chopping into a V.
Did you do the chopping?
Yeah, we do a bit, yeah, but I wouldn't be competitive at chopping at all. It's not my discipline. And you'll actually find in the sport, it's almost like having 6 or 7 different sports in the sport, if you will, because you get one guy is really good at whatever their discipline is, and they mightn't be very good at all at everything else.
You'd notice with the chopping, the physique has to matter, because they're putting weight. You can see the power.
They're getting you're getting about a ton to be competitive. You're getting about 1.5 tons of an impact every time you strike. But what's more important is your ability to change the angle. because every time you put in a hit, you're actually changing the angle. Because, you know, if you look, we're coming into a V like that, but the axe is actually like a wedge. So if we came in, instead of coming in at the same angle, it would stay pushing the axe out. So you have to adjust that. You're actually, if you actually watch carefully, it's actually turning slowly in. And then you have a drive side and a chip side. So actually one side, the angle is a bit different than the other. And the mission with the chopping is just to get through it as quickly as you can. You just want to break that thing in half, you know what I mean? But there's a procedure for that. And even when we set the timber up in the stand, you know yourself, when trees grow north, south, east and west, you can see it on the rings. So some lads have like their fast timber first.
Do you get to turn?
Yeah, we can set them up on the stands backstage.
You get to.
Yeah, if you're
yourself?
if you're chopping, if you're on underhand, you do your underhand stands, you prep them, you get them out, then they're brought on stage for you. You are only allowed to reject a log, and there's a spare one log. But if you reject it and you get the other one and you don't like it, you're stuck with it. So you need to be careful about your decisions like that.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's like the crosscut, for example, is an interesting one. With that, you need to be heavier than you are strong, because you need to keep yourself on the ground. So you can be super strong, but you'll actually drag yourself off the ground. So you can watch this guy now hitting. Yeah. So there's actually a procedure. So if you watch him, he's actually going around in a bit of a circle there. Yeah. And every hit is to us is a second. So every wasted hit is a huge amount of time. So they need to be so accurate. We've often seen guys who are hugely strong men come into this and be easily beaten by a young fella that's really light and skinny, because the guy who's light and skinny is putting the axe where he wants, where the other guy is just not accurate enough, you know.
How many lads have lost their foot doing that?
One or two. Yeah, we wear for the chopping, we wear chainmail socks. So you know, like you see the butcher guys we wear chainmail socks. Now, you're still going to make bits of your foot, but at least it's still attached, basically.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Now in Australia, it's only in Australia when you get to a certain level, they don't have to wear socks, but it wouldn't be unheard of someone have left their toe or something on stage walking off and things like that. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that?
I've seen a few cuts. Yeah.
And since you started that, how much money have you spent at that passion?
For me, I'm not too bad, because it's saws, and saws aren't that expensive. The choppers are the guys who are spending the money. So our choppers they're always buying 3 or 4 axes every year. So you're talking at least 3 or 4 grand every year. And then obviously for minor events, we're obviously traveling and stuff like that as well. But again, we do a couple of shows or a couple of events, and we try to get a bit of money into the club and kind of spread it out that way as best we can as well. Yeah.
And have you axes?
Yeah.
What's the most you ever spent on an axe?
Well, actually, my best axe I bought second hand, which I think I gave 500 or 600 euros for.
And would you ever go out for the crack and chop something down with that axe?
Yeah.
Ever in anyone's yard around?
No, but my 2 sons, one in particular, I won't mention which one it is, had a habit of chopping perfectly good trees and leaving them half chopped
around the place. Bollocks.
Yeah, on it, yeah. But you do. It is fun. It is.
Do you go every year? Still?
I haven't competed the last couple of years. So you have to qualify. Everyone has to compete to get their place and stuff like that. So I'm 52 now, so I'm getting a bit long in the tooth. But I might have a go this year again. We'll see. So
you still stayed at Timber though? You never left it?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
So what made you stay at Timber, and when you left everything else? Because it couldn't be money.
It's certainly not. Certainly not the money. No, I think for me now at this stage in life, it's the lifestyle. I love the people that are involved, and a bit like the Timbersports, they're a cohort of people that you're not likely to meet anywhere else, and I can't put that into words. You probably understand that when we meet each other, or there's different contractors that were being out of the shop or in chatting to us and stuff, and it's just, I can't explain it. There's no words for it. They're just people I find interesting. They're nice people, and they get on, and it's just it's a different way of living. And I think maybe because the world has changed so much in the last couple of years, it's almost refreshing. It's almost a bit old-fashioned or old-style way of going on, and it's not so much PC, shall we say. But yeah, I find them terribly interesting people. Yeah.
But as a sawman, would you think it's a good career for anyone to get into?
Yeah, it is actually profitable now, because there's very little of us left. There's such a shortage of it. Everywhere I go, can you get someone to saw? Can you get someone to saw? So it is profitable. and it's interesting, or I find it very interesting. I like challenging things, so I can't look. There's no point in saying it's easy. You know yourself, it's not easy. As we say, when you guys ring us, it's never on flat ground. They're never nice clean trees.
But it's just such a physical job. It's a very physical job nowadays.
Yeah, I love that part of it.
But most people wouldn't. And then it's very hard to say, like, you train people now.
Yeah.
Like, how many people say if you train 10 people?
Yeah.
There's no way that you're maybe one you might go, oh, that lad might be not brain dead and he could be a sawman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because to be a good sawman, you're nearly having to calculate everything about a tree when you're just looking at it. And even me, that I'm used to it. I'm used to timber. And when you or Jack Cuddy is up in the wood, and you see that, you know, when you're walking around and you're looking at it.
Yeah, we're in a different world to everybody else. Yeah, yeah.
But it's like, even there's so many dangerous things, even when you get down.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot to it. I don't think you can learn. You have to do it, don't you?
Yeah, I train a lot. I train a lot of the emergency services, so fire brigades and councils. You know, for trees, we do an awful lot of that, and what we do is interesting. One of the things we say is, well, what's the most dangerous tree you'll ever cut? And we always say the one that's actually lying on the ground, not the one that's standing up. That's the one that's more likely to kill you. And when you say that to people, they kind of look at you and say, what are you on about? Like, you know what I mean? And there is a lot to learn. There's a lot to watch. It is inherently dangerous because you can do everything right and still have a little bit of bad luck, and you can get, you know what I mean, things can go wrong. You have to like it, but there is a huge amount to learn. And I suppose the one thing we always say to guys is, you know, we train them up over a period of time and they do their exams and they qualify and all the rest of it. To us, that doesn't necessarily make you a sawman. You may have passed your exam on the day. It takes a good bit of time. Like, to me, I'm 52 years of age and I say I'm still learning every day. Every tree is a little bit different. So that's why I enjoy it so much, I think, because I'm always learning. I never get, you know, it's never the same thing, you know. But yeah, and I think unfortunately the negative side of it is I think when things go wrong, the accidents, I'm sure you're aware as well, are life altering. That's the problem. I think people don't treat them. They're brilliant tools. I mean, like I say, a harvester, what's now 650,000 is 22-ton weight. When a tree gets too big for that, they call a small guy like me with a 70cc saw, and I can deal with that tree. So from that perspective, a chainsaw is an amazing tool. From the other side of it, they're a loaded gun. That if you don't treat them with a bit of respect, the injuries can be life altering, you know. And unfortunately, we do see that a bit too much.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I see that. And nowadays, it's changed. A good sawman now knows how to work with a harvester. They kind of have to work together.
Yeah.
To do the job safely.
Yeah.
But then everyone kind of has to know what they're doing, and.
Yeah, there has to be, and unless you have, sometimes we have walkie-talkies and stuff like that, and we can communicate. It's almost like we can read each other and be aware, so you know what the harvester is going to do next, or the driver is going to do next, and he's watching you and you're watching him. And I suppose for us, the biggest fear for us around harvesters are the chain. We're always worried about chain shot, because we know that'll just go straight through. You can wear whatever PPE you want, because you know, harvester chains running at 40 meters per second, and that multiplies by 4 or 5 times if it gets the shot, if it comes around the nose of the bar and stuff. So
have you ever nearly got caught with it?
No, I've seen them going, but I'm always, again, I've been very lucky that most of them, bar for one guy I had, and I just wouldn't work with him anymore because he was just so complacent. He just put the head wherever he liked, and you'd look over, next thing the head is pointing towards you, and he said, Jesus Christ, if that comes off, I'm going to get it. And I just stopped working with him. So for the likes of Greg and most of the lads, they are cognizant of the fact that they know what will happen if they point it towards you and stuff like that. And you kind of plan out, again, what you're doing, so you're not in line with that, so you're not putting those guys under pressure, having to watch out for you.
Do you know, when I was a young lad, when I first started on a harvester, the chain shot never was the thing that I worried about.
Yeah.
Like, I often worked the saw, like, looking at it. And then when I heard about a few things, now I always have the nose just away.
Yeah. And I remember your harvester, it was the only harvester I think that used to scare me was the Komatsu, because the chain speed I think was so fast in that you could hear it. When we were on the ground, you could hear it. And I said, geez, that chain always scares me on that machine if it comes off.
The Komatsu have a super fast chain.
Yeah.
And it pushes out real fast as well.
Yeah. And it was, when you'd be around, you'd be very, very aware of that one. Like now, the difference is probably very little. If any of them hit you, you're a brown bread. But yeah, but yeah, there's a lot going on. People just think that they're, you know, it's quite simple. It's not as easy. It looks simple, but it's like the guys watching those guys with the Timbersports. You know, if you or I start up there and you haven't done that before, we'll be 2 hours trying to chop that block where they're doing it in 20 seconds. You know what I mean?
There was often times I thought I wanted to work a saw. Right?
Yeah.
But then I realised in bad weather I don't want to work one. In real good weather I don't want to work one. When there's loads of wasps I don't want to work one.
Yeah.
And when it's a long walk into the wood I don't want to work one.
Yeah.
So I only want to do it on. Do you know when you watch a big tree fall and you stand back and you see it crashing in the ground? It's a lovely.
It's a good buzz, yeah. If you're putting it exactly where you want, and that's the bit of crack. Like you put down little marker sticks sometimes when you have time and you're trying to drive that marker stick into the ground and you're trying to be accurate. But yeah, for me, I hate walking. I don't mind anything else. Walking drives me haywire because you're dragging so much gear, and you know the terrain. It's unless you've walked that, you try to explain people. After the harvester's been through, there's brash and there's stumps.
Yeah,
it's
hard walking.
Yeah, you're going to fall all the time and stuff like that.
You get good at falling though.
You do get good at falling.
You'd be falling for 10 minutes.
But yeah, we all want that tree where I can just pull in the van and it's right beside and I can pop out and knock it down. And but after that, the midgets to drive it is tough. And I suppose wet weather is physically, like a lot of guys get out sawing after their 50s because the giants do start to give trouble, and it's the wet weather is hard on the body, I think, you know. But then there's other times because it's so physically demanding, and you see a lot of guys and you say, geez, that lad doesn't look that fit, but if he's in the wood, he's fit. He might have a bit of a belly on him or something, but you'll be amazed how much stamina, because you know what it takes to stay going all day.
I was only talking to Shane Flynn about it the other day because we're doing a men's hell day.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, Jack Cuddy works with us a good bit, and he's not the specimen of health now when you look at him. Like, that man, I don't know how they get so much power.
Yeah. We always say that if you want to be fit, come into the wood with us for a day and we'll see how you get on. Do you know what I mean? Dragging.
How come you never got into like driving a machine? Does that not interest you at all? Because you do dabble in machines, but you never went all out at it.
Yeah. I can find them a little bit like on a wet day. I have an old harvester that's 20 years old. It's in the vintage section now. On a wet day, I go running to that thing because I can turn on the heater and wipers and I'm dry and all the rest of it. But I think for me, after a day or two, I want to be getting back out of the machine. I enjoy it and all the rest of it, but I don't know whether I could do it every day. I mean, Andrew, my son, he does mental hours down in Galway. I couldn't do that. I think I'd get cabin fever. I think I'd rather be out in the rain, to be honest.
I think I'd rather be in the cab.
Yeah. I think you feel, it's hard on the body, but you feel good. You feel healthy. You feel fit. You know what I mean? Where I think, I presume for you, I don't know, I'm guessing, but I presume because you're in the cab, you have to physically go out and try and do a bit of exercise because you will go a bit soft, I suppose.
Sure I am. I'm like Mr. Blobby, so I am at this time. That's why I'm always trying to... I think that's why my back is fucked.
Yeah.
You're just sitting down all day and you're not doing anything. And
you get soft and then you get the impact of a stump or something like that. Yeah. And
I always... Years ago, the seats on the machine, they used to be a bit of give to the side. Yeah. Like they have loads of technology now up and down, but nothing to the side.
Right, for an impact.
And then I only found out the last time Ed Power was down that there is a seat that goes to the side. There's no one fucking Pesford.
All right, okay.
Because years ago, lads were an awful lot, how do you say it, fatter.
Yeah.
And the seats used to break.
Right.
Remember all the old machines, the seats used to break and you'd have a little chainsaw, cut a little block and everyone would be sitting on this block of timber.
Yeah.
So I hope my next machine's going to have a little bit of give to
it. Well, I know from Andrew, because he's on very wet ground, so they have massive tracks on theirs. And any kind of stumps and stuff, he said your every bone in your body is
big jewels on it. No,
they're on
white tracks. The white tracks.
800s as well. Yeah. And he said it's grand and wet ground. It's a brilliant job. But he says then if the odd time you come out and they get a lot of stones or stumps or stuff like that, he regularly carries a chainsaw with him in the cab where he's just cutting the stumps down because he's getting bounced around in the cab, and that can be, you'd hear him now and again complaining. He's a young fella, like, about his back and stuff like that, you know.
So how did you get into doing training and all that kind of stuff?
Training was kind of
accidental.
Almost, yeah. I taught a little bit when I used to do the welding and stuff. I taught a couple of people how to weld, and I used to enjoy that. And I suppose with the forestry, it kind of evolved that way as well. And then we got tied in with FRS, and kind of what happened with FRS was during the COVID or the China flu or whatever you want to call it. There wasn't a derogation for the emergency. the emergency services, there was no derogation given for fire brigade or council and stuff like that. And so the training had to continue, and obviously some people were nervous about training and stuff like that, and we just tied in with FRS and they asked could we go in and do a bit for them, and it kind of...
Do you like it?
Love it.
Do you like to meet new people, or do you like actually teaching people stuff?
Both. Even though I'm a kind of person that if I didn't see someone for 6 months, I'd be completely happy as well. I absolutely love meeting people, and I really love if I get somebody who's actually interested and just getting them to achieve whatever it is they want to get. I absolutely love that.
Would most of the people that are for the emergency services that would be getting training and the ESB, are they just trying to tick a box? Because they're very rarely going to use it, probably, are they?
Initially, that's what I thought, but you'd be surprised how busy they are. You'd be actually surprised. Certain areas, there've been certain parts of jurisdictions where you'd meet a guy and you come back and meet him 2 years later, maybe retrain or something like that, and you say, well, did you get any saw time? Were you doing anything? He says, no, last time I had a saw is when I saw you.
Robbing Christmas trees at Christmas.
And, yeah, maybe. And then you get other guys and saying, geez, we're out the whole time now. We're very busy. So it depends on where you are in the country and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And it can be hilarious sometimes. And, sometimes I've had debates over between council guys and fire brigade guys as who gets the rights to the timber when it falls across the road.
Yeah, who gets the rights to the timber?
Whoever's there first.
Is that what the way it works?
Yeah.
So if a tree falls down on the road today on the way home,
yeah,
and I cut that up, is that my timber?
I don't know the legal side
Leo,
of it.
you have to find out these things.
It's actually interesting. There's one council, I can't remember where, and they actually give they process it and they give the timber back.
To who?
To the landowner. Do you know what I mean? In other places where generally say a tree falls across the road and the boys will be processing, the landowner come out and say, you're cutting my tree. And generally the response is, well, if you want a 10 grand bill for us being called out to deal with it, we'll charge you the 10 grand and you can have your timber back. And generally they say, oh no, keep the timber at that point, so you get a bit of that going on as well.
Is there a lot of arborists and stuff up in Dublin riding people for money? Or is it Wicklow lads coming down to Dublin? I have you now, boys.
I don't know. I think actually it's becoming like everywhere else. The shortage. It's good for the contractors because they are making decent money. Those guys have a short lifespan as well because climbing is incredibly hard on the body with joints and carpal tunnel and stuff like that. And so those guys are all done. Most of them are done by the time they're 50 as well. So you can kind of understand them wanting to make a decent bit of money when they're at it because what do they do when they're finished? On it, but no, again, it's a shortage issue. It's shortage all the time now. That's what we're seeing everywhere we go.
You should try see what it's like to build bike sheds now. There's seems some fierce money in it.
Yeah, there's future in that, I believe.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
And like you wouldn't be worrying about carpal tunnel when you're making them.
Yeah, well, I heard recently we were actually in a council office recently, and they were talking about the bicycle shed, and I said, I heard they're looking for a water tank now for the protesters, and I think I'll just buy a slurry tanker and paint it white and see what I can get for it, But,
well, I say you get it this time of year when they're trying to get rid of the budget.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever had someone that came in and you were like, oh, you're a stupid cunt, you can't be taught? Or do you just teach them anyway and go through the ropes? Or would you ever say, you're not passing? Like, have you ever failed anyone?
Yeah, people have to be failed, yeah. And it's not always the easiest thing to do, to fail someone, because nobody wants to fail anybody.
How bad would this person have to be now?
We have strict guidelines about what has to be achieved, what they have to be able to achieve on the day. I would look slightly different at in the sense that in my head, from my own experiences, I'm thinking if this guy goes out, is he going to get himself killed? And that's kind of more the approach. And I worry more about that than his actual saw skills per se. Do you know what I mean? And I know some instructors would be like, very funny about angles and stuff like that. And I always say, well, for me, as long as you understand what you're doing wrong, the rest of it you can practice will get that right. But the guy that scares me is the guy who just goes in without thinking, who's just chancing his arm, and they're the ones the sweat starts pouring away because you think, yeah, you're going to get yourself in trouble because, you said it yourself, like the first thing, there's one instructor, a guy, very, very good instructor, and he used to say, when you come out to a tree, what's the first thing you do? And he'd say, leave the saw in the boot of the car. That's the first thing you do. Take a look and see what you're walking yourself into and see can you actually walk yourself out of it. And I just said that on the guys in the course because we're all men and none of us like to be beaten. Even me. I love when someone rings and say, look, there's a tree here and it's a nightmare to get down and we have to get out between two buildings or we have to do that. I love that challenge. The part that you have to keep in the back of your head is that when you go to look at that, you have to think, is it safe for me to actually do this? Can I walk out of here? And as men, we're very quick to say, you know, blind ourselves to that, if you will, and just say we'll chance our arm, because you don't want to say I can't do that. You know, it's hard to say to somebody, this tree is beyond my skill level, or this tree is, you know what I mean, I'm going to have to walk away from it, or we'll have to get a climber or a heist or whatever it is. And that's where I see the issue, where people can, it's bravado, if you will.
Isn't it always the real complicated ones are probably the ones you're never gonna worry about? It's like if I go into wood, anytime I have bogged, which is only once, we don't talk about that, right? But it's always in the wood you don't think you're gonna bog it. Or if you do harm, it's always like, oh, it was dead level, I turned it over. So is it not the same with
For me, yes.
Yeah.
The difficult tree, because you're on it, you know it's difficult. You're awake.
You're
If you ever want me to see me messing up on a tree, it'll be a tree that's that diameter, that's straight in the middle of the wood. I'll mess that one for you, because I've relaxed. I've the tension span has dropped. You know what I mean? You think, oh, this is easy peasy, and this is how you get yourself into trouble. Yeah, and it's probably the same with the forwarder or the harvester as well. Yeah. The tricky ones, so you think, geez, I'll never get this, and you actually manage to get it because you're zoned in on it, you know.
Yeah. Is brashing more dangerous than cutting a big tree? Brashing every day. I always found brashing scary.
In what sense?
You're head high, and you get complacent and could kick back, or you just wouldn't be minding, or.
Yeah, again, I think tiredness comes into that a lot. It's more tiredness. I know from my experience of it, to admit to being dangerous, it's generally when we get tired, we start doing the stupid stuff. And I think that can be an issue as well with chainsaws, that, you know, really you should be doing 6 hours instead of 8 hours, and maybe do 4-day week instead of 5 days, because you know yourself, early in the week you're full of beans and you're grand, you're flying along, and by Wednesday, Thursday you're starting to get tired. And for me, my experience of it is when you'd have the near misses is always the Thursday and the Friday, when you're just burnt out and you're tired and you do the things you wouldn't normally do out of convenience or stuff like that. No, I think the dangerous trees are the blown down trees with your root plate, because there's so much compression and tension in that. And of course, people that don't know always start at the top end of the tree, which is just about the most dangerous thing you can do. And people always think that the tree might stand up, but they forget, because of the way the root structure is, it could pull left or pull right. And you need your escape routes really, really good, and you need to slow everything down and just think about everything, and, you know, what can get me kind of an attitude. Those ones and rotten trees, they can be a nightmare, because again, you know, your hinge is critical and stuff like that, and you break into somewhere, next thing you have no hinge. That can be scary, because then, you know, we decide where we're putting a tree first, and when we've decided where that tree is going, then we can calculate where our escape routes are and stuff like that. But if you don't know where that tree is, well, then you can't calculate your escape route, and then you have a big problem, like, you know what I mean, then you're putting yourself into danger and stuff like that. After that, some species of timber can be tricky as well. You get like
what's the worst? Hardwoods are a bastard.
Cherry.
Why cherry?
Cherry loves to barbature.
What?
It loves to barbature.
I don't know what that means.
So, you know, you put in your cut, your two cuts, your directional cut, and then your sink cut, and you normally put in your fell cut, your last cut in the back. If there's any bit of lean on that at all, as you're coming in and you're trying to get to that hinge, so you're trying to create the hinge of a door, basically, is what you're trying to do with a tree. So you're controlling it, it can't go left or right, and it's just going that way. As you're coming in with cherry, it loves to split up along the tree. And what'll happen is it'll split, and then it'll shoot back down towards you, and it gets you, the sawman, and it splits like with a pint on it. And hence the word barbature. It leaves the shape of a barbature. It's
brilliant. That's a brilliant name.
Yeah. It's same with a forward-leaning tree. So if you have a tree falling, say if I'm felling a tree towards you, I cut the front of it as normal. If I come in from the back, what happens is the tree starts to go before I get to the hinge. It'll actually split as well. So then that's when we get into bore cuts, and that's when you see us doing all the mad cuts and all the looking and what we're doing, and holding cuts and safe corner cuts and stuff like that. And it would be the same then with trees, with you know edge trees.
Yeah.
Everyone, they all want to go to the road. You want us to put them back into the wood, and of course physics doesn't allow that, so you kind of cheat physics a little bit, and you go in at angles and stuff like that. And So your hinges have to allow for all that side weight. You know what I mean? So, it's many multiples of the weight of the tree is pulling on an inch and a half of a hinge. So you kind of have to be very careful about where you position that and how strong it is, and be looking at the fibers. And then again, like even, you know, most of us are sick as spruce, but Norway, there's a difference in Norway. Get into Douglas gets more brittle, or you know, Grandis or Grandfor is even more brittle again. So there's quite a little, you know, there's subtle little differences in the cuts we make, but they're important, you know. I find that so interesting for me, because it's like you're all the time learning and stuff like that, you know.
I always find it amazing when you're cutting timber, and sometimes you go into a sale and the trees just seem, you think all your chains aren't working. They're so hard. Some trees are just so hard.
Yeah.
Or at certain times of the year, like I don't know, does the water freeze, or what is going on that they're so hard?
It's the ground has an effect. It can be some species of timber actually suck up silica from the ground, like the poplar that we do use in the chopping competitions. When we chop that, you'd see all little scratch marks in the axe, and you'd wonder where all this, and it's actually sand or silica in the
Gets sucked up in.
Yeah, it gets sucked up into the tree. It would be the same, say for example, and I've always had an issue with this. There's a lack of knowledge, and again, this is me being the weird person that I am, in people going into chainsaws shops to buy chains and technology and stuff like that. So if I'm in a sale with G, when I'm in the middle of the wood to me, the timber is clean, and I'll be on full chisel chain. And then you'll send
what's full chisel chain?
Full chisel chain is a high production saw chain for speed. It's about production. How you'd know to look at it, if you look carefully, now it's not exactly a right angle, but the cutter looks like a right angle. If you look at the harvester chain, you use chamfer chisel or semi chisel, so it's a curve if you actually look on it, right? So we would actually, when we go out to the edge of the wood, we would actually change over to semi chisel chain, because what happens is, you know, the gravel roads in the summertime, what happens is you have dust and dirt, and the tree opens up and it blows into it, and it's almost like every year swallowing in the silica, and so if we use a full chisel on that, you're going to have a bad day, because you're going to be sharpening every 10 minutes. A bit like what happens to you guys when you get that type of timber. So we change over to different types of chains. So for me, there's a lack of knowledge in Ireland. I know in Europe, if you go into any chainsaw shop in Europe, America, and you say, I want a chain for my chainsaw, the kind of go-to chain, Toyota Corolla chain, is a semi-chisel chain. In Ireland, it's a full chisel.
Okay. So you don't need it.
And well, it's a problem, because it's and I don't know if it's either lack of knowledge, or maybe the sales guys are being very clever, because they know you're going to be sharpening more, so you're going to be back buying more chain. It's not suitable for that. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to hold its edge, and so things like that. There's a massive lack of knowledge in stuff like that. And again, a lot to learn, and even with the harvesters, you can change the chain. But again, you talk to people and say, "Geez, I didn't know that." And there's a lot in chain technology, a huge amount in chain technology that makes a difference.
I suppose with the harvester, when you're buying boxes and boxes of them, it's hard enough to have. You're just going to be writing them off stones, and
yeah, it depends on the ground. Yeah, so for harvesters, it's easier for us, because we can adjust to the terrain, and again, I have very little time done in the harvester, so my knowledge will be very, very limited. But I know from talking to guys like yourselves, the big problem for you is if you're driving into a hill, your bar is always going to be level, so you can't see what's behind the tree, and you're going to clip them and stuff. Or
even now with second generation, the way everything's planted,
yeah, that's nasty.
Just pulls the stones up.
Yeah, it's nasty stuff there. Yeah, that can be difficult. But you can go for a chamfer then, or stuff like that, which helps a bit. The speed slows down, but your edge holds a bit longer, and little things like that. You know what I mean?
So what do you do when you're not doing that? What's your hobby? Wedding dresses.
Wedding dresses, yeah. Yeah, we have a bridal shop.
See, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. So normally I'm covered in what I call manned litter, which is sawdust. We call it manned litter.
Yeah.
And then I'm in that world, whether I'm covered in oil or covered in whatever machines, and then some weekend I'll be in a tuxedo or a shirt and tie, and I'll be at a bridal event. So we have a bridal shop in Nina and Tipperary, and
what's the name of it?
Cleo Bridal.
Cleo Bridal.
Yeah. So
like, you couldn't put the two together if you were to guess it.
No, and actually, Carol, she runs the shop obviously down there, and when she called it Cleo, I thought, oh, that's a nice name. It sounds very French. And for 6 months after we'd registered the
It's
shop,
the two of your names.
it was Carl and Leo. I didn't click with me, and everyone else did, but I didn't click at all. Yeah, so,
Fuck's sake.
yeah. So, yeah, it's good. The shop is going well. We're the biggest shop now for bridesmaids dresses in the country now. And
So would you know a little bit about brides' dresses?
Yeah, a bit.
A bride would walk in and you go,
yeah,
I know I'll look good on you.
yeah. In the evenings, you're going through lookbooks and stuff like that. Carol's only back from, no, she wasn't in London. She was somewhere else in the UK. So she's always travelling abroad a couple of times a year, and they go and they're buying. And the trick is to try and predict
what's going to be in fashion.
Yeah, because say if we order a dress for our showroom, so you're talking 6 to 8 months for that to be manufactured. So you're talking nearly, by the time you ordered and get it back in, you have to go in and be that far ahead for the because it is a designer shop we have, like, you know, it's all designer stuff. So that's kind of interesting on it, yeah. And it's interesting for me to get into that world where we do go to runway and all that kind of stuff, which is not for the guy who's normally at the back of a chainsaw to would normally see that. So that's been quite interesting, that kind of to see all that, yeah, be part of that, yeah.
That's a bit mad now. Like, what made you, when you say you're sawing, you're doing training. You do more training than sawing now, don't you?
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get. It's driving me haywire at the minute. I need to get back into the wood.
Well, calm down for a minute.
Yeah. Even though I'm in the wood every day, I need to get back into.
But then you decided to open your own shop as well, but not bridal stuff. Like,
no, yeah. We've opened up a chainsaw shop here in Mount Trat, for maintenance and service and supply as well. But my main interest is again chain and maintenance and looking after equipment and stuff like that. Yeah.
So are you just not able to sit at home do nothing?
No.
Ever?
Never.
Did you ever take a holiday?
Yeah, and then by day 2 I'm going around feeling guilty. I actually start to feel guilty. I can't explain it. I actually genuinely feel guilty, like I should be in work.
What was your longest holiday?
Years ago, we used to go 10 or 12 days. We used to go into Shannon. That used to be a nice holiday. We always go on the cruisers and stuff because we used to travel at that time with the churches. We were covering the British Isles, so you're always on a plane or on a ferry.
I heard you were smuggling dresses up the country. That's
could have been doing that, yeah. So, but yeah, it's difficult for me. Yeah, difficult.
So you're just gonna keep opening shops, doing stuff. Are you ever gonna retire?
No. They can put me in a box and then I'll be retired.
Wooden box.
Yeah, well, whatever they like, I don't care.
Will you make your own box?
I don't know. I came home one day actually, and I think Carol and my cousin, a few other people in the house, were actually discussing my demise, and they even continued to talk about my demise. And while I was there, and I was asking, then I got into the conversation. I said, "Well, talking about my funeral, what that'll be like," and they said, "What makes you think you're going to ever be found?" So we know you can't swim, so that was the response. Yeah.
But like, as you get older, you have to say that the training is the option. You can't be an old lad rocking around in the woods. It just wouldn't be safe.
You can. I think you can. I think if you're fit and healthy and minding yourself, you can.
Would it be a form of keeping healthy and
There's two guys, I don't know them. I've heard about these guys, and they're in their 70s, and they're sawing away down around Kerry somewhere because they can't get them.
That lad's fucking old lad could be out on the saw and he's 80.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he?
Yeah.
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 He could.
Yeah, and I asked him one day, would you not
put this up to your mouth?
Would you not rather be driving a machine at this stage? And he says, no, I'd be too slow on the machine. Yeah,
it's mad. It's a way of life, though.
It is, yeah, and I'm sure any of the people I know will say when you're there, you're cursing the blind, saying, "What the hell am I doing this? There's so many other jobs I have, could be so much easy." And then you go away for a week and think, "Oh, I miss it. I have to get back." So it's a weird one, yeah. It's
so you that have done loads of other jobs, you would recommend being a sawman for a young lad?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a shortage of them out there. It's a healthy mentally and physically. It's a really, really good lifestyle. It's an interesting one. You get to use your body and your mind. And if you're the type that you want to be a man's man, shall we say, well, that's the game to do, like, you know. There's
a few people who be following me over in America. And over in America, if you want to be a sawman, they give you a saw or you buy your own. You hang it over your shoulder and you rock into the wood.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. Well,
and seemingly they'd be dropping like flies.
They do. Now, they have similar rules to us as well. They just don't abide by them as well as maybe we do and stuff. But that is the risk. The attrition rate in America is colossal. Yeah.
And mostly it's not from saw injury. It's from stuff falling on their heads.
Yeah, one of the biggest injuries that we would have, or most common injuries would have, is impacts. So we'd have broken backs, broken necks, fractured skulls, where stuff coming out of a canopy, or it's one of the things we spend a lot of time training with guys is it's an interesting thing the way psychology and the way our minds work, because like I always ask the question, why do we think? So why do we think?
Therefore, we are
Yeah, well, why do we think? Why have we evolved to think unlike a
to
cow?
avoid danger.
Yeah, so we don't die basically, right? And so I just said to guys, that's what your risk assessment is about. Is so we're looking to see what's going on, but we also have developed an ability to hunt. And one of the reasons we're good at hunting is we can focus in on something like that.
That's why our eyes are at the front of our head.
To the exclusion of everything else. And the problem is, and I just said to guys, like, I know you might be getting a bit of free timber, and you get to saw a couple of times a year, and it's exciting and it's good crack, and you can run in with the winkers on, thinking, oh, we're going to load up the transit or whatever with a load of timber here, and that's how you walk yourself into trouble. Is not getting your head up into the canopy, not getting to what can get me, what can hurt me, and stuff like that. You really need to focus on that kind of stuff. Same with storms. You see guys coming out, tree blows across the road, and you know this as well as I do in the wood, and the guy comes out to cut the tree. He doesn't think about, well, why is that tree in the ground? Has it disturbed the roots of another one? Is it still windy? And that's where people get themselves into trouble. The other thing I see, with not picking on farmers or anything, but it's just because we see this, I'm sure you've seen it on the road.
Illuminati.
Yeah. They look at maybe guys like us and they interpret our cuts incorrectly. And one of the things they do, they might cut the front of the tree, or directional cut and your sink cut and all that correctly. And then they think they're doing themselves a favour. They come in and do their back cut at a 45-degree angle. And you'd see this regularly on roads and stuff like that. And it's basically the actual worst thing you can actually do, because what you've done is created a lever. And if there's any back lean on the tree at all, it'll actually shear the hinge. And it acts like your breaker bar for all the world. And they get themselves into a world of pain. But because they interpret what they see on YouTube or whatever, you know what I mean? So that can be an issue as well. We see lots of things like that going wrong, so.
I'm going to ask you a scientific question now.
Yes.
Why does timber grow better on hills?
Does it?
Yeah, it does.
Right.
Why?
I don't know.
I thought you'd know.
I don't know, no. I don't know.
I was told, I asked this to someone, I was doing a lecture. It was I was asked to do this thing in the US.
Right.
And it was just a lad that I followed on YouTube, and he asked me to just go in and do the Zoom. And I thought it was just him and another person. Next thing, it was in a college class, and there was fucking 300 people there. And I asked him, and he goes, because it's on a hill, no one goes near there, it's left alone until the very last minute.
Right.
It's the last stuff that everyone touches.
Has to go in here, yeah.
Are you ready for the questions?
For sure, fire ahead.
Sorry. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
I trained a guy down in Waterford to weld, and I meet people and they're you don't see them again or whatever. And about 3 or 4 years later, I was in Newbridge one day. Carl was actually with me, and this guy came over, and I didn't actually even recognise him. And he came over and he asked, could he shake my hand? And I thought, oh, okay, grand. And he said, you changed my life. And I said, fuck you on about? You changed my life. He said, that got me into a career. I have a house, I have a family, I have everything. I hadn't much hope before that, and I appreciate what you've done. And that was like, to me, I didn't know whether he was on drugs, to be honest about it. It was such a shock for me, and I thought after that was a really nice thing. That if you can help people achieve their goal or their ability, that is a really nice thing to do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
What age is he? Young lad?
Yeah, sure. I presume he was in his 30s when I can't remember, to be honest. Is that long? It's 15 years ago more.
What's the last thing that you Googled? You don't have to tell me if it's porn. Just do the second last thing then.
I'm trying to remember. It's probably something with aerospace technology. I like any spare time I have would be looking at aerospace. So why accidents happen and the kind of redundancies they build in, or fail safes they build into machines so they don't happen again. I love all that kind of stuff.
So air crash investigation, you love that.
Yeah, not about the way most people look at it, about the debt. I want to find a solution to it and how they build in that solution so it doesn't happen again. It's the one thing that intrigues me, I suppose, with the Health and Safety Authority. I find them a little bit adversarial, where I like the aerospace, so they're kind of a non-blame, if you will. Now, if you do something really stupid, you're going to have to take responsibility for it. But when people feel like they're not going to be blamed, they'll tell you about things, and then you can see, oh, there's a cycle here,
And the
there's an issue
aerospace
there.
is cool because they work towards not the whole industry works together to not have it happen again.
Yeah, and I wish we had, because I have trained the guys actually here in the Health and Safety Authority. I do the forestry part for them as myself, and another instructor do that, and I do try to get across, if you're less adversarial overall in long term, it would make it safer, and people would talk to you, and you'd find out way more than people running away hiding, and it's understandable why they do that. Yeah.
Could you fly a plane?
I will probably learn at some stage. Yeah.
I think I could anyway.
Yeah.
What's the worst nightmare you ever had?
I don't know. I have loads of nightmares, but I never remember them, so I don't
Just
know.
wake up screaming.
Yeah, it drives her crazy. Yeah, I get night terrors or something similarly, but I don't remember any of it.
Maybe it's ghost.
Who knows?
Did you ever live in a haunted house?
If it did, it never bothered me.
Well, unless you're asleep and you can't remember them. What's the most painful thing that you've ever been told?
I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure. My best friend died a few years ago, and it wasn't that it was told, that just happened, and I think that was difficult.
Suddenly?
Yeah, heart attack. Yeah, that was a shocker, right?
Same age as you?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years older. Yeah.
When stuff like that happens, I think you said it to me one day. Someone said something to you. It's scary when they start pulling people out of your own pen.
Yeah.
You know, when people of your own generation start dying, it starts making you think about...
It does a little bit, yeah. As I just say, I'm getting invited to more funerals than I am to weddings now.
Yeah.
And that, but I think that one was just because we were incredibly close, and I think that just, family members dying, which you kind of expected, they're older or whatever, but that caught me off guard, all right, a bit,
Yeah. That's a shit thing.
Yeah.
If you could talk to one person that left us, who would it be, and what would you say to him?
It'd probably be that person again. What? I don't know. What would I say to him? If I'm getting another life, line up a good job for me. Line up something else interesting to do.
Do you believe in God?
I'm not sure, but I live by those rules. That'd be an okay statement.
Yeah. You believe, you act as if God is real.
Yeah. I think there's something there. I'm not sure what that is. I do believe that. But I kind of would separate, say, religion and that belief in to me, religion, if you go by the Bible or something like that, and I'm not the most religious person just because I worked in churches or anything like that. I mean, we often played Iron Maiden inside in the church when there was no one around. But I think it's a good book. If you want a rule book to kind of go by, I think it's a good book that way, even if you leave religion separately from it. Yeah.
Do you do you go to mass, Ran?
Yeah, sometimes, not that often. I have to like the priest.
Yeah.
I have to really, really like the priest.
I like churches. Like, it must be nice working on churches. Like, when you were saying that you worked on churches, I think churches has been a nice place to work. It's like when you go into a big cave when you're on holidays, and you go down to, where's the one in Clare? Alloy Caves, is that?
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
When you go into them places, they're and the ones in Kilkenny, they're just nice. There's something about them. They're real nice. I think it's big, open, empty spaces.
I think the design of them can be very interesting, especially considering the lack of technology they would have had years ago. How sound was very, very important and stuff like that. Now, you'd be more into music than I would.
And the beauty the effort they put into it.
Yeah.
I think back years ago, people looked to the future more. They looked up. They built big things.
I think it's a thing that we need to understand, or it took me a long time to understand. People, this quest for happiness and stuff like that. If you want to go that direction, the first thing you have to learn is there's something greater than yourself. And if you can't see that, it can become negative. It can become unhealthy. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what that attempt was, that they look up that there is something greater than me. Because my experience of people is that the people that don't believe that, they're more likely to fall into depression, or they think they'll find happiness from material things
and short-term things.
Yeah,
which you don't.
Exactly. Yeah, and for me, from my experience, and again, look, we're all human. I remember someone saying, we start out liberal and we become conservative, but I know um, for me, where the happiness, if you want to use that word, I'm not sure that's even the correct word, is is working really hard to for something,
Yeah.
that achievement, and it's not even the reward at the end of it. It's just knowing that you can do it.
Yeah. And knowing you put yourself through hardship to get there.
Yeah, and I think young people, and I feel sorry for them at the minute, because I don't know whether they're not being taught that in school, or they're missing out on it, or whether it's the lack of religion. I just don't know. I think it's leading for them to a lot of them being wound up in medication and not being happy and stuff like that. And you try to explain to them, look, work really hard at this. Look at the reward
And
is.
everything now is instant gratification.
Yeah.
You know, you can watch all series right now, and everything's at the tip of our fingers. And
Yeah,
like what's that saying? Great men plant trees they'll never sit in the shade of.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen now. Is there a building project now in the world that lasts for 10 generations? Say when they built the Sistine Chapel, that was over like 2-3 old men.
Yeah.
No one does that anymore.
No.
Unless it's commercially viable. Except for the likes of
Or
Elon Musk and them, or they're building big things and
or bicycle sheds, maybe that might.
Bicycle sheds, yeah, that's some fucking waste. Fuck me.
Yeah.
What do people misunderstand about you most?
Oh, I'm not sure.
You're not supposed to be sure. You're just supposed to take your best guess at it.
I have no idea. No idea.
What do you think is your biggest failure?
I struggled with anxiety over the years a bit, and sometimes panic attacks.
From what?
No idea.
Just come out of the blue.
I think I always had a little bit of it, and I did have a couple of bits of accidents and things, and that maybe exacerbated, but I don't think that was the foundation of where it came from. I'm starting to get out of the opinion is maybe just a medical lacking in something or whatever. But because of it, it held me back from doing things. I think I would have had a very different life today because of it. Definitely, yeah. It held me back from lots of things that I probably would have been braver about doing.
And do you ever feel like that now?
I still have anxieties now and again. It comes and goes and bits and stuff like that. But I'm just not willing to let anything to hold me. There's so much I want to do. For me, like I hear people in my age saying they're talking about getting ready to retire, and I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, I need another 50 years. I have so many things that I want to do. What's wrong with you? You know, that kind of way. And I think people need to try and, well, look, it's my opinion, but it'd be good for them to try and work towards your projects. There's so much fun in that. There's so much learning. There's so much happiness for me anyway, definitely.
Do you read?
Yeah, I do.
What's your favourite type of genre?
I read anything and everything, generally in the form of audiobooks, because like you, my day starts at 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's 3 hours here or 2 hours here, so it's all audiobooks. So I'll do a few podcasts. I like philosophy, so the norms, the Douglas Murrays, the Jordan Petersons, some conservatives.
Do you ever go old fashioned, Marcus Aurelius and all them guys? Socrates?
No,
Kant?
Not so much. They're a bit too much hard work for me. I wouldn't have the time sometimes to think about them sometimes. I know this probably sounds lazy. I did the Gulag and some of those ones, but they're hard. They're a bit of work, like they are hard work, but they're worth doing.
They are worth doing.
They are worth doing. Yeah, stuff like that.
Mick's going listening to the Gulag Archipelago this week now. Yeah, that's his weekly reading.
Weekly one, but then after that, then I'd be aeronautics or anything. I just anything like that I can get in.
What's your biggest fear?
My biggest fear. Not getting enough time to do all the crap I want to do.
Would you be afraid of dying?
I was, but not now. I just don't have time to die at the minute, if that makes sense. I'm too busy.
Too busy to die.
Yeah.
What's your biggest regret?
My biggest regret, again, I suppose, I think with the anxieties and stuff, I think I probably would have wound up in aeronautics maybe, or stuff like that, whether that would be flying airplanes or doing something behind the scenes mechanical or stuff like that, and so I was shyer and quieter and not wanted to travel when I was younger as much, and I think that I held myself back, so I'd have regrets that way. The only other thing I suppose with my sons was that when you're working for yourself, it's not having spent enough time with them.
What's your biggest fear for your son's future?
I actually think for young people of their generation, so they're in their mid-20s, I think they have more opportunities now than we ever had, as long as they're willing to push and work. Um, the fear I have is I think society is heading in not a good direction, where people are afraid. Like I see it every day, and that's the one thing I like about the training. And people are becoming afraid to say what they feel, what they think, and I think that's not healthy for society. It's not healthy for us psychologically. So that would be a fear that it's becoming a kind of a controlled state, and it's not just Ireland; it's the UK. It's everywhere you go. It's pretty similar, bar for maybe Hungary and Poland.
Poland.
Maybe. Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm starting to think that we're in the West, we're subject to some generational subversion from Russia and China and them all. I think
Yeah.
they've been fucking up our society bit by bit, tiny bit at a time, chipping away at our morals and
Yeah, I think maybe I think we need to actually look in and blame ourselves. We need to take responsibility for our own actions. And I come across this regularly when guys say, God, you can't say anything anymore. And I say, well, no, you're afraid to say anything. I understand why you're afraid, but we're not going to make it better by continuing. We're going to make it worse if we stay doing that. And I don't think that's the Russians' fault, or I don't think that's that. And to me, almost, it's like they're using some of the states over here are using some of the stuff from their playbook actually to behave like communists. You know what I mean? And
it's scary when if you want to conduct yourself by, like you talked about Jordan Peterson, tell the truth or at least don't lie.
Yeah,
Whereas you're being told now, and all our kids are being told, if you tell the truth, even though it's your truth, with no hate behind it,
yeah,
it's hateful.
yeah,
You're being a bigot,
yeah,
or you're being mean to someone when you're just telling your truth.
yeah.
And if you can't tell the truth, sure, no, everyone's walking around just fucking
We're
willfully
zombies,
blind.
and especially like even the word racism, it drives me. We're all racist because we're tribal. We came from tribes back from whenever. So even with the best intentions in the world, to a certain extent, if Cameras is playing hurling against Portlaoise, guess what we're going to be? We're going to be racist. You know what I mean? And it's just, and I actually think for people in minorities, it's actually making it worse for them. And I know a good few people say in gay and lesbian communities and stuff like that, and when I talk to them, they feel like they've been dragged in, especially the stuff with the kids and the identifying and all that kind of stuff. They feel like they've been dragged into that, and they are very, very afraid of it. When you talk to them, say, look, we want no part of that because we think a lot of this is bloody child abuse and it's this, that, and the other. And even they feel like, you know what I mean, they just want to be left alone. They got their rights, they're allowed to marry, they're, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, and they live happy enough. And
When I was young, I always wanted to live in a lesbian community.
yeah,
Would have been my dream.
yeah. Well, I remember Douglas Murray saying he was on about the LBGTQ, and he said it was quite interesting because it was a construct of governments, because they all hate each other.
Yeah.
And it is true, because I've been in gay bars and I've been in lesbian bars.
And
And you never see them mix. They actually never. They all kind of, they don't. As the gays will say, the lesbians are just men, and the lesbians say, well, the men are just fairies, and you know the way that kind of conversation goes.
But isn't it weird to define yourself by how you like to have sex?
Yeah, but that's the problem.
Like it's weird.
Yeah,
Like
that's the problem. That's the issue. They're shining a light on something and when you talk to the people themselves, or at least the people I know in the circles I travel in, they don't want that line. They've got their rights. They're allowed to marry.
It's the equivalent of men meeting each other in a bar or starting to work with each other and go, "Hi, my name is David, and I'm into big old broads." That's what I'm into.
Yeah. And
it doesn't make sense.
No, and like, it's one of the reasons we opened the shop, and then eventually what we want to do with the shop is,
I don't know where this is going.
To have somewhere for people like us to come in. Like, we don't see each other.
Yeah.
We see each other whenever, because you're in one wood, I'm in another. We're all over the place. And it's funny when we meet up, it's kind of hilarious because we get so excited and we're talking about everybody else, and we're there stuck with each other for 2 hours and we're trying to get away from each other. But one of the things I envisaged for the shop was where people come in and get their services or whatever, is I want to put in a little bit of a coffee shop or a tea shop. And it's not about coffee and it's not about tea. I envisage it for a place for men to be able to come in, and women or whatever, and just feel comfortable to say what they want and be themselves and relax. Because the last couple of years, I feel like people are very tense. When you meet them, they're very, very cautious. They're very, very tense. They're not comfortable in their own skin. And that's one of the reasons we actually started. I said, I want a place where people can come in, and if they curse, it's grand. And if they say something that's slightly offensive, even, look, we all say stuff. I get up in the morning, I don't want to offend anyone. But when I go to Cork, I take the piss out of the Cork lads. When I go to Dublin, I take the piss out of Dublin lads and all the rest of it. There's no bad intentions in that, but that's been misconstrued as being either hateful or whatever, and that's not healthy. And I think it actually makes it worse. It exacerbates it a bit, So that was the idea with the shop, that people can come in and say what you want and have the crack and just relax and be yourself, whoever that is, And I think we'd be better off if we all tried a bit more of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just if the women are coming in, they're not coming in with axes. Don't bring axes if they're going to be thrown around the place. That's
they
just
find it very
dangerous.
relaxing. Yeah, de-stresses. They think about us.
What's the best lesson you've ever learned from your parents?
I think from my dad, when you come to massive obstacles and it's too much to take on, just break it down into little bit by little bit and just chew away at it that way. From my mother, it's if you want to do it, just go do it. What are you waiting for? Life's too short to be messing around. Go do it. If it's what you want to do, go do it. And I think that's really good.
That was good.
Yeah.
Sure, if you learned that from two of them, no wonder you just keep doing stuff. Sure, you have no choice.
Yeah, well, we're all different. I mean, I have 7 siblings. We're all very different from each other.
Are any of them very like you?
No, not at all. Actually, all very, very different from each other. Very, very different. Live very, very different lifestyles.
Do you get on?
Yeah, because we don't see each other. I always say, Carol's family, they're very close and they spend a lot of time around and they can fight a little bit. And I say, well, we don't see each other, we can't fight. So yeah, we do get on, fairness. Yeah, we go. Yeah.
Spend Christmases together in Aspen.
We wouldn't. We wouldn't live in each other's pockets. But for me personally, is if someone needs me, just ring and I'll go do it. That's I think that's a healthy way to do things.
That's cool. What keeps you up at night?
My next project, whatever I'm doing next, whatever I'm focusing on, trying to work stuff out.
What question do you wish I asked you?
No, I don't care. I actually don't care. I don't have a particular question I wanted to. I don't like scripted things. I think things should flow the way they want to flow. I think that's better for everybody.
You're the most laid-back, impulsive person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. I'm a contradiction of myself. Yeah. In some ways, I'm very aggressive and very focused, and in other ways, laissez-faire. Then I don't care. Yeah. I'm an enigma even to myself.
An enigma. That's a great phrase.
Yeah.
An enigma to yourself.
Yeah.
Who do you talk to when you're stuck and you don't know what to do? Is it your woman?
Carol, and then she just tells me what I should do.
Now that your young lads are an adult age, would you discuss work and stuff with them? Or is it just daddy talk still?
I do chat to them. I'm never sure of whether to be a dad, or I'm not sure how. It's probably my weak spot of how I communicate. No, we do communicate and we do talk and all that. But what that relationship is, I'd say I'm weak on that as to whether, am I a dad today or am I just being a normal person, because you're adults and we talk about, future planning and stuff like that. I probably have a weakness there, but maybe we all do, because that's that parent-child relationship anyway, which is different.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it and not looking forward to it at the same time.
Yeah. The only thing I think my mother said is, and she's turning 80, she'll probably kill me for saying it now, shortly or next year or two, but she said, it doesn't go away. You're still a parent at 80. You still worry and you still do that. So but yeah.
And any Timbersports competitions going on this year?
The World Championship. There's a qualifier coming up shortly for everyone, and then the World Championship is in Toulouse in France this year. Somewhere first or second weekend in November normally is.
Will you go even to look at it?
No. Either I'll compete or I won't go. I would lose the will to live sitting there watching it. I can't do that. I know I can't.
Do you watch films?
A bit more documentaries and stuff like that. Yeah. But I can't watch. I couldn't sit and watch someone compete, and I just, for fuck's sake, I just want to be there doing it. It's a weird one, yeah. Where the other guys like to go and watch and stuff like that, no interest for me. I just either compete or not at all. It's a weird thing I found out about myself when I got, and again, look at me, I got to compete for Ireland in my 40s. I never thought anyone would happen to anyone like me. And the weirdest thing to happen to me is when I got the opportunity to put on my green jersey, I turned into a raving lunatic. I don't know. I
You were
can't.
just all in.
I just want to win. I get so aggressive with everyone around me. I'm an asshole. I'm the nicest person on the planet. Anyone that knows me, I'm easy going. But the minute you say competition, I just want to.
Did you get in trouble for something over there with sponsors or something? Something about pictures or something.
Oh, we missed the photo shoot.
Had you to get naked or anything? Take off your
No,
tops?
we got a €4,000 fine for missing the photo shoot because they really wanted to get a look of us.
Stop.
Yeah.
And who paid that? Everyone.
I think they wound up paying for it in Dublin. We didn't pay for it anyway. It's very scheduled. It's very precise. You know, you're up on stage at 13.5 seconds, and then you come off, and you might have an interview, and then you have a photograph, and then you might have another interview, and then you have another photograph, and then you have to go stand here or whatever. It's all very choreographed.
Did you get to talk in the interview?
Yeah, I don't mind. Some people don't like talking. I talk in interviews. I've been, it's no big deal. Yeah. I like chatting. It's easy. I like meeting people.
Would you be told to be real cocky? If you're not first, you're last.
I'm just myself. I remember a guy called Adam Lowe, and I remember it was one of the funniest interviews I ever seen. He's a huge man, phenomenal axeman, just phenomenal. And he would do his main speciality is a standing block, and he would 13-inch diameter block, 4 or 5 hits in the front, 4 or 5 in the back, job done. He's the only one you can actually hear the steel frame creaking on stage. He's hitting it that hard. He's that much power. But he came out one day for an interview, and they're interviewing him about, what's the secret, Adam? How did you do that? And all the rest of it. And he just looked at her, and he's not a real cocky kind of guy. And he said, pies. I like pies. And just,
is he bigger than the lad you have working in the shop then?
Oh, yeah, way bigger than him. Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah, way bigger than him. Yeah. Way bigger.
Because that lad's a monster.
Yeah, no, this lad, I remember when I met Adam the first time, I didn't even realise he was an athlete because he would struggle to get through that door. He was that big, and he doesn't, he's a big man. He's all with
he looks
bellies.
kind of overweight.
Yeah, and by God, you want to see him move, and the power, frightening.
Fuck. Yeah. Well, Leo, thanks a million for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having
me.
And
we'll tag the shop if you need. What else do you do? Do you fix lawnmowers and don't you?
Yeah, just normal. All small engines and small machines and stuff like that.
And if you want to see the biggest, we call him a foreigner. I don't know exactly what country he's from. Where's he from?
Hungary.
He's the biggest man. I think if you want to get people into that shop, put him in a cage and throw him down his arm or something. He's fucking huge.
Yeah, he used to be able to lift 180 kilos straight up with his arms fully outreached. And he had a heart attack about 2.5 years ago, and we were lifting something out of the van one day, a machine, and I said, Gabber, this is okay now, it's a heavy lift for all of us here, are you sure you're okay, with the heart and all? And he says, oh, well, I'm not as strong as I used to be, I start to struggle after 300 kilos. And I said, oh, you're okay, so
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh, that's good. Right, yeah. Leo, thanks a million.
Thank you, thanks for having us.
Catch ya.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.